note that the following program contains mild spoilers. If you wish to watch the film or TV show mentioned and be entertained, do not watch this video until you have done so. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you today with a story to read. A long time ago, in the year 1984, a powerhouse by the name of Diana Prince roamed Washington, D.C. The end. If you gathered anything from that, it is that this video is not scripted in the slightest, and that we'll be going right off the top of our heads today, so that's always a fun time. Today, I will be discussing a movie that I recently watched, Wonder Woman 1984. Now, to preface this, I was not very excited to have a second Wonder Woman movie, because I felt that the first one was just good on its own, and there was nothing that there was no point in adding anything more to that. It was good as it was. Additionally, in the trailers, they showed that Steve Trevor came back, and we all know he died. So, with that said, I've seen speculations of this movie being worse than Suicide Squad and Justice League, which I don't think is fair at all. I do not think it is the DCEU's worst movie ever. But, it wasn't great. I just don't think it was as bad as people are saying. With that said, however, I have seen this movie once, and if you want to see my live reactions to it, check you know where to look. So, with that said, let's go into my in-depth thoughts. I have some notes in my book over here, but nothing is scripted, so if you want quality over, I don't know, whatever non-scripted video is like, you can go watch my Ben 10 video. I'm very proud of that video. Let us begin. So, general plot outlines to begin with, of course. It is 70 years in the future? Between 66 and 70 years in the future, maybe more, I don't know. Diana has been being Wonder Woman, she's been chilling, but she's been very lonely and lost because she lost the only person she ever loved. Anyway, she works at this museum, new person comes in, brings this magic stone. Basically, it is Jafar meets Bruce Almighty Jafar and Aladdin meets Bruce Almighty. That's basically the plot of this movie. Now I have some brief notes here, and I will be occasionally checking them. So let's start at the very beginning. A very fine place to start. The opening sequence. I thought that the opening sequence was fantastic. It was a very cool obstacle course. It showed just how powerful the Amazons were. They were doing some really cool jumpy thingies. It kind of reminded me of the Triwizard Tournament a little bit in Harry Potter. But with that said, it was not very clear how this Triwizard Tournament would affect the movie in any other way other than being a very cool opening sequence and a hook to audiences. I will also say that the CGI in this movie was kind of wonky, and it made a lot of things look not great. When Diana was running in her Wonder Woman costume, it did not look, something just looked off about it, as well as the special effects that were doing when they were climbing up the walls. It looked too flowy and not at all natural. But overall, that opening sequence was really very cool. I just wish it played a bigger role in the film overall. Now, if we talk about the writing, this was not the greatest written movie that I've ever seen. As a whole, I felt that there was very little interesting dialogue, except that wasn't even dialogue. In the scene where Steve was trying on all the clothes, I felt that was felt like that was funny. There was nothing that really stood out as like good writing or an excellent line. There were long, unnecessary monologues that just kind of went on, and it was more like talking at the camera rather than to the characters, which I feel like removes the audience from the story, which I don't think was the goal of that movie. I also think that the messages that they were trying to convey throughout this whole movie were a little bit too in your face and had no subtlety or nuance to them, if I use that word correctly. It was kind of like how in The Witches, which was another movie that I recently watched, whatever messages they were trying to convey to their audience, they were like made it very obvious, because that movie is geared towards children. It makes it kind of awkward and unsettling to watch. While we're just on a rant of all the bad things about this movie, the tone of the movie, as well as kind of the vibe that it had, was a little bit off-putting, and it didn't have the same authenticity as the first one. The first one felt very grounded and real, which is a lot considering that it's a superhero movie, and it combines both superheroes and gods and goddesses. So the fact that that movie felt very grounded, I think was a great achievement, and it was lacking in the second one. I felt that all the vibrant colors were great to look at, but they didn't fit the story, I think, very well. So yeah. What I wrote here actually was, I feel as though the tone of the movie loses the authenticity and genuine charm of the first movie. The second movie just lacked that appeal, I think. Now onto some good-ish things. Some of the performances and the interactions between some characters were very moving, I felt, and some were not, but I really enjoyed the introduction of, what's her name, Barbara, I think, as a character, and I liked how Kristen Wiig did a really good job when she was Barbara. I felt like she added a new quirkiness to the show, and I felt like that could have been a really cool relationship to develop with Diana, except they kind of made her into a villain, and actually do talk about that later on, so we'll get into that. But I felt that those performances, when it was between Barbara and Diana, were really good, in addition to when Barbara was on her own in her own scenes. I feel like Kristen Wiig did a great job with Barbara and the cheetah character. I felt that the end of the movie was much more, to use the word again, charming than the beginning. The beginning felt slow and a little bit out of place. I kept wondering, how are they going to move this along? It did feel awkwardly long. The movie was 2.5 hours, and I feel like that was unnecessary. I feel like you could have gotten in a much better movie in 2 hours than wasted time with some of what was in there. So I feel like a little bit of cutting and moving things around would have done the movie some justice. Back onto the thing that I mentioned about Barbara and Diana. What I wrote here exactly was, I think it would have been much nicer to see Barbara and Diana team up and fight a common enemy rather than be on opposite sides of the thingamajig. I felt like that would have been much nicer to see on screen, and I think it would have made for a better story. And I also think that it would have been better to spend time developing the relationship after the events had happened, after she became Cheetah and after the wishing whatever was destroyed, instead of wasting time with whatever they wasted time in the beginning. And yeah, it could have been a great a great segue into a new movie, which they are in fact doing. Speaking of Barbara, the whole her turning into a cat/apex predator situation, that was bizarre. Yeah. I just feel like it was such a waste of potential to make Barbara and Diana be on opposite sides. And anyway. Now if we get into a little bit more scene-specific situation, who is our guy? Is his name Pedro, the actor? Pedro? What's his name? Alistair? No, that was his son. Robert? He was his character, his actor. Pedro Pascal, that's his name, I think. That is what happens when an actor has bad writing, but they really put their heart and their soul into this role because they want to make it good. That was how I felt about Pedro Pascal's performance. However, it is quite apparent throughout the whole movie that he doesn't, I mean, of course he loves his son, but he's a very negligent and absent father to Alistair. And so at the end when he was like, of course I love you, you are who I care about the most, I felt like it was kind of what's the word? What is the word I'm looking for? Furthermore, during this ending, everybody had to renounce their wishes. Kind of improbable to count on everybody who was watching that video to renounce their wish. That felt so fake to me. Like, there is no way. You know, you have to get somebody to mop that up. And there's the Bruce Almighty reference. Clean up the mess that was, first of all, this movie. Second of all, that situation. And I felt like it was very lazy. Wishing stone thing had potential to be really cool, but I don't think the execution was there. I do think that Diana trying to say goodbye to Steve was one of my favorite scenes. That felt very real, and I think that's what my main issue, I think, with this movie was that it just, none of it felt real. And I mean, superhero movies, it's kind of hard to get them to feel real, but I feel like enough superhero movies have done it that it is to be expected now, and this one just did not meet those expectations, unfortunately. I actually felt that the Wonder Woman costume in this movie looked so bad. Like, I don't know, I felt there was something either wrong with the fit, or they changed the way that the costume was meant to look, because I think it's meant to be armor, it's meant to be metal, but this time it looked soft and just wrong. I just felt that the costume looked really bad in this movie. But a good thing that I thought was really cool is when she swung on the lightning. I actually had a dream about that. Or when they mentioned the invisible jet, I was like, OMG, comic book, that's adorable. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the movie. I know it wasn't as in-depth as it could have been, but you listened to me talk about it. Now let's listen to some other people who actually do know what they're doing talk about it. And welcome to the critic review section, where I read other people's reviews and see if I agree with them. Currently, on our Google page, we have a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and 59% on Metacritic. Ooh, the top voted tags are boring, overhyped, corny, overrated, forgettable, cringeworthy, slow, unconvincing, yes, cliche, and plot holes. Okay, let's read critic reviews. Oh goodness, this is a very positive one. As superhero sequels go, especially DC superhero sequels. Yeah, no, this is a bad review, sorry. Racing them with pure escapism. Movie. Oh, but also, like, that movie kind of just showed, or it highlighted how powerful Wonder Woman is. Like, she can fly, she has an invisible jet, she can make things invisible, are you kidding me? And Wonder Woman is literally the offspring of Zeus and an Amazon warrior. Wonder Woman 84 really is the hero 2020 needed all along. These are all so positive. Okay, positive. Where are the negative reviews? Lord. That's his name. Max Lord. Okay, so judging by the reviews I just read after watching this, I guess we're not being honest in movie reviews anymore. Let me just preface by saying by how much I adore the first movie. Such a strong story with gripping, lovable characters and just the right ratio of fight choreo to green screen. Diana's loss of innocence was truly touching during a time of increasing social and political unrest. Agreed. Now pivot to a few years later. The sequel is lacking, to put it mildly. Agreed. Kristen Wiig seems to be playing a watered-down version of her character from Bridesmaids. Then suddenly, some guy at an office event turns into Chris Pine. Well, surprise, surprise, it's a huge allegory for Donald Trump. Oh, lol? Didn't even get... I read another review talking about how this movie offers escapism from our current reality. How? Agreed. The whole second half of the movie is some white guy screaming into a camera in front of the presidential seal. Then there's the issue of Miss Wiig. Let's not talk about wardrobe, since I'm sure we're all on the same page. At least those of us with eyes. But I'm just not buying her brand of supervillain. Yes, it was cliche, contrived, and stiff. In the end, she becomes a cat. How does the movie end? With a big "I'm sorry." There's the escapism I read about. That said, I hate complex characters being watered down for the sake of narrative digestibility. It seems to happen with female leads far too often. You can't force a message down your audience's throat with a strong movie to back it up. Retweet. Diana is already multifaceted, but that gets lost for the sake of centering this dollar store Donald Trump storyline. It's like the diet anti-fascism or feminism light. Wow! And what's worse is it's been done better. Until suddenly, we're at the end. Chris Pine goes just as soon as he came. Kristen Wiig gets electrocuted but doesn't die. That made no sense to me. And the bad guy gets a slap on the wrist for inciting Armageddon. There's like one black supporting actor, so there's your representation. I don't need to read any more reviews after that. That was so good. Jason Carter. Excellent, sir. Excellent. Thank you all for joining me today. I had a great amount of fun watching the movie. And a great amount of fun reading that review, which was so good. You can watch Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max and in theaters if your country's COVID laws allow that. Stay safe out there. I will see you in the next one, probably in the new year, if this isn't already the new year. Next movie, we'll see what it is. In the meantime, I have to finish The Office before it leaves Netflix. So I will see you all at a later date, and the truth will set you free.